Good day, this is Brer P.H.D. and my Ph.D. stands for Post-Hole Digger. That means very simple that I continue to work on a proper foundation for the prodigal son and daughter. One of the reasons that I'm so concerned about it is because of a word that I recently got to know. It's called Plandemic. It's not pandemic, but P-L-A-N-D-E-M-I-C, Plandemic. Decoding the Key to Christianity, Restorative Justice 29. Christian Oxymoron Exposed. You know that we talked about P.M.S. versus P.M.S. That means that there were two parties. One, God, the Creator, and P.M.S. stood for physical, mental, and spiritual, versus the party from Satan, Lucifer. He uses P.M.S. as politics, money, and spirituality or religion. And we have seen on the side from Satan, because we live here in this kingdom, what it does. They're murdering, killing each other in the name of God. Yet God had nothing to do with it. I ended up in prison myself due to money issues. I declined an offer from a friend of mine, and he happens to be a first Freemason, meaning that he was the head of the Freemasons in the local party. That party happens to be in London, Ontario, Canada. And the people that used to live there around 2000 will know who I'm talking about. That gentleman told me I would regret turning him down. And for about 18 years I've been in court. I lost millions of dollars. I'm wondering, through that whole experience, why and what and where. And my discussions and my investigations based on the following. Plandemic. I learned to decode the key to Christianity. I was raised a Christian. I went to school, Christian schools, Roman Catholic schools, and then a Pentecostal school, Bible school, seminary from the Seventh-day Adventist, and I tell you all the stuff that I could do to gain knowledge. And yet, the more knowledge I gained, the more I realized I don't know. And after 18 years in court, 6 years sentenced to prison, I finally came to the conclusion where the lies were, what we had believed for so long, and reality, we were deceived. So let's decode the key of Christianity and why this is part of restorative justice simplified. Let's take a look. The word plandemic is a pair of 2020 conspiracy theories promoting tales and half-truths about the pandemic. Starring is a disgraced researcher described as an anti-vaccine activist, despite her denial, and many others. So the decoding is the key of Christianity is part of the Restorative Justice Simplified series. I started this, and actually, in all honesty, I used to work in prison as a counselor for 12 years. Not consecutive, but for 12 years on and off. We were called in if there were problems in a maximum security. Years later, when I moved to Canada, I got sentenced for 6 years. And I tell you, there's a big difference when you can walk in and out to visit people, or if they tell you, take all your clothes off, and for the next couple of years they're holding you there in coveralls. So this is where, for me, a decoding started from a concept. Well, I was so-called, quote-unquote, an educated person, doing the things by the law, and then finding out what the reality is. The big question for many today is, are the living scriptures a Christian doctrinal dilemma? Now, breaking it down for those that don't feel comfortable with a big word like doctrinal, It's a body of principles or values presented to accept belief. Thus the question, is the person who calls himself a Christian guaranteed salvation? See, this is the big question. In prison, I prayed with so many guys. And when I say so many guys, I mean in Canada. When I physically wore a coverall and I was one of the prisoners. I could not leave. And so many of them recognized that I was different. So one of the guys, the first guys that I dealt with actually, was a big dude by the name of the Enforcer. And he was the enforcer of a bikers gang, the Hells Angels and the Banditos. The names showed up on a regular basis. When he had to go to court, he had 5 guards around him because people were afraid of him. His hands were deadly, for he had been instrumental to the disappearance of a few big dudes. So having spent time with him, and I'm talking 5 months, day and night, being in a cell with him together, we talked and we shared. And every night I ended up praying with him. You know why? Because whatever you do in life, eventually it will catch up. If you take the life of somebody, the blood will always call on you. If you are in a position where you don't know what to do anymore, do what I did. Figure out, why am I doing what I'm doing? Why do I believe what I believe? Why am I here in this position? Whether you're sick or whether you're broke, whether you're frustrated, it doesn't matter. If you are not satisfied with the position you are in, start going back to basics. I used to play squash. I was the owner of a fitness club in Canada, and we had 30,000 square foot. I believe it was 30 to 40,000 square foot. That's 3 to 4,000 square meters. And in itself, it was awesome. We had 6 squash courts with 30,000 kilos of free weights, aerobic classes, swimming pools, and what have you. And a bar, of course. So when you talk and listen, actually mostly I was listening to people, they came there for a purpose. They wanted to change their life. They felt they were overweight, or they were slow, or their mental capacity was not as it used to be. So they wanted to change. And change is always what I believed was go back to the basics. If you want to play squash, you got to move in a certain way. You got to position yourself a certain way. I got trained by the champions of Canada because the London, Ontario University, Western, had the champions. And I offered them free courses. I offered them actually free time to play. They didn't have to pay as long as they taught me how to play. And so I became pretty fanatic when it came down to squash, because it was awesome. I lost against the guy with a wooden leg. And that really made me think, how can a guy with a wooden leg that was amputated to just about the knee, and he beat me. So when I got lessons from this champion, you know what he did? He put me back on the basics. And it took me a little while, but eventually I beat the guy, and we played a lot of games and had a lot of fun. Now, why am I sharing this with you? Going back to basics in life is always good. One of the things I learned is if we let something simmer too long, in time it will boil over, snuffing out your pilot light. Why am I throwing this in? Because it is so important if you are dealing with an issue. I was a businessman. I did everything by the rules. I hired the right people. We raised money. Things went fantastic. All of a sudden, I'm in the millions of dollars, with a portfolio of billions of dollars of value. And the weirdest part was, I became very popular. People wanted to be with us. People wanted to be part of what we were doing. They wanted to travel with our cars and travel in the brand new trucks and the Mercedes, in the offers, fantastic, private planes, all that kind of stuff. But if you let something simmer too long, in time it will boil over, snuffing out your pilot light. That means something is killed off if you don't pay attention to something that is lingering. And with me, there was something lingering which I did not realize at the time. I had a friendship with a fellow for over 10 years. We did business together, we did some marketing together, network marketing, motivational, we're speakers all over the place in Ontario, Canada, and we traveled quite a lot. He was a millionaire, lived in a big house, and eventually he shared me something when we had to stop somewhere. He said, Bob, I got to pay attention here, and I got to stop at the lodge. I had no clue what a lodge was at that time, and I should have because I studied, but I didn't pay attention. So he shared with me what the lodge was, what it did, and he was the head of the Freemasons. Big deal at that time, till I got to know and understand something that was not nice. I saw another side of my friend that had so-called everything and would destroy someone if he didn't get what he wanted. Now, if there's anything I learned in life, if someone is willing to kill, to maim and destroy something, that means he is working for Satan. Because God says there's life and light with God. So if someone is out to destroy you, no matter what you say, no matter what you do, and they're willing to kill you for it or to maim you for it, then you know you're dealing with evil. So that is my training background, okay? 18 years in court, 12 years of self-defense, meaning I run out of money after $10 million spent on lawyers, had no money left. We lost our collateral and all kinds of stuff. So in other words, I went from the top all the way down to the bottom. And when there was nothing left, guess how many friends I had? Nobody. Sure, they were friends. Yes, sure, boy, no problem. So that is what made me develop something. Stamina, question marks. Question yourself. How come you get yourself into trouble? And most people don't dare to say anything, and so they keep their mouth shut. So we are going to go to Matthew 18:15-16. And it said, moreover, if your brother commits a sin against you, go and show him his fault, but privately, just between the two of you. If he listens to you, you've won back your brother. If he does not listen to you, take one or two others with you, so that every accusation can be supported by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. Studying the Qumran Library, those are the Dead Sea Scrolls, with the experiences in the Canadian court system for 18 years, modified a range of my long-held belief. In other words, I believed certain things, but with the 18-year experience in Canada, and then on top of it, studying the library of the Dead Sea Scrolls, I worked in different districts in courts, and meaning I was in London and I was in Hamilton. One had nothing to do with the other, and yet they were all connected because they kept on pounding and pounding and pounding till they got it right, the accusations. Normally you are supposed to go once before a judge, the judge throws it out, that's it. You cannot just go and shop around. In this case they did, because they controlled the system. Now, we're going back in court. Why am I saying certain things? Because I want you to understand, although I'm not a lawyer, I had to learn the law. And one thing that you need is evidence, and you need witnesses. The witnesses I refer to, they lived in the 1st century. 2 expert witnesses of the 1st century Essenes, Josephus Flavius and Philo of Alexandria. Josephus, he was an historian of the Jews in that period, and Philo was the most significant Jewish philosopher of that period. So both of them were indeed very well shaped and trained to talk about what they were sharing. Both knew of the ancient Essenes. Thus, what they tell us has high credibility. Regarding the origin of the Essenes, neither Josephus nor Philo can give a specific date, but both clarify that the Essenes root are ancient. So in other words, they go back way, way, way. And Josephus declares that the Essenes existed from time centuries old and countless generations. They found out, or they discovered, and Philos agrees, that calling the Essenes the most ancient So there were two people, Philo and agrees that the Essenes were ancient initiates and teaching perpetuated through an immense space of ages. In other words, they kept on sharing the same message. Josephus and Philo and several other ancient writers, including Pliny the Elder, consent on 2 points regarding the origin of the Essenes. They were lost in prehistory, with absolute ancient legends linking them with Enoch. There was a significant remanifestation of the Essenes by Moses at Mount Sinai. So they are going back all the way to Moses and Enoch. The scrolls and the fragments recovered in the Dead Sea Scrolls actually, they are Qumran, and visions represent a voluminous body of Jewish documents, an authentic library dating from the 3rd century BCE to 68 CE, that is after Christ was born. Unquestionably, this library is the most significant manuscript found in the 20th century. So what is the importance of a witness? Now, first of all, in court, if you go before a judge, you want to make sure that you have somebody that can collaborate what you're saying. So for finding justice and truth in a case, one of the central components of achieving this begins with the witness. A witness in a criminal case is typically someone testifying in court because they have either observed the crime or event or know about the event. Now, we have 3 types of witnesses. We have eyewitnesses. Those are the people that have seen it, they know about it. We have expert witnesses. An expert witness is an expert or maintains superior knowledge over the average person related to the topic they are asked to testify about. So it can be a forensic an expert or a psychologist or psychiatrist. And then there is character witness. The character witness will speak to the reputation of a character of a person, usually in the community where they live. So the original foundings of the Essenes by Enoch. Enoch in the Bible was a man who walked with God. Enoch lived many centuries before Moses, and the 5th chapter of the book of Genesis talks about him. He was the 7th generation from Adam. Whoa! Meaning he was born 7 generations after Adam. Now 7 in the Essene numerology is a number of perfection, the science of numbers of vibration. It was one of the many sciences practiced by the men of great wisdom in ages long past. These men learned that everything comprises of vibrations. So the morals and ethics and values of Yeshua. What does the modern church know about the original Gospels or the actual teachings of Yeshua, Jesus, and the way? As the prodigal son and daughter, do you have your home in a far country, aka also known as the outer darkness? Suppose you're following the footsteps of Jesus on the way he taught. Then at an undeniable time, there you will overpower the spiritual amnesia afflicting all humanity as we remain in this realm. What happened with me was that after a long time, 18 years is a considerable time, in over the years, all this time in court, every week you had to be before the judge. I spent over 400 hours in high court. And as representing myself, speaking as self-defense, as well as my wife, we learned certain things. And over that period of time, I started remembering things. Now, when we are the prodigal son and daughter, and we used to be with the Father, that means there is more to life than just us living here on this earth. We must have known the Father before. And as God's will start to work and operate in our life, with me, it was through a terrible time for me in the courts, losing all kinds of everything, period. Not all kinds, everything. And then gradually it started to dawn to me. I lived in the outer country, in the outer darkness, in the far country as the prodigal son. So I wrote a book about it. Protocol, Deception Protocol, Blueprint for the Prodigal Son. And as we live in the outer world, eventually we will remember how we used to live with God. Now, the question is, are you ready to meet the Father while you are still alive? See, through this whole natural process of travailing, of work, or more likely burning the candle on both ends, on the way, while you're on the way, as Joshua taught us, we will develop something. We will develop a memory back to God. And an author, it's you just write something and you want to develop a character for a book or your name in a movie, then you're doing some soul memory. It's a cumulative total of all the souls gathered. Those are all the people gathered on the surface in your book. Parts of the formula sets the minimum and maximum range for the interactions between players online. So if you write a book, it has to be harmonious. It's same as a video, and same as a movie. So when we fit the bill to be part and parcel of our recuperation and understanding and remembering our time with God, we will fill in the blanks. And those blanks are done in soul memory. Folks, I am sharing something that has taken me a long time. I'm 70 years plus now. I was born in 1950 in June, and this is taken, taped in November, end of November 2020. 70 years and a half almost. And yes, by the grace of God, we are healthy. But I tell you folks, I hope that I can spare you the road I had to take before I finally came to understand that we can live a successful life. But it's not based on what you have been told. It is based on that you follow the way, the truth, and the light. See, if we go back to the title that I just started with, it says Decoding the Key of Christianity. Are you sure that you are on the right track? I don't want to hit you over the head and tell you this and this and this is wrong, because God will reveal to you what you need to do. It's the Spirit of God. But I can only help you with some history lessons, going back with my own experience, what I had to learn. When you find a reliable witness, listen carefully, folks, because what is happening in the United States, where the body of Christ, the majority of Christianity, is supporting a president that is deranged, I tell you there is something wrong. And the perspective of the body of Christ is not just the Americans. It is in general the majority of people, because their foundation is not the foundation that God gave us. The foundation that God sent us was the way, the truth, and the light. And if we know where the changes occurred, we can fix the problem. But if we don't know, we keep on stumbling and we will never become successful. So therefore, stick with me. We're going to search and find out how we can change that. And that's why my PhD is called Post-Hole Digger. Because as we dig deep down in the foundation of our belief system, of our society, and ourselves and our family, we might find and discover things we do not like. But if you're willing to change them, you can turn your life around. Is it easy? Nope, it's not easy. But it is possible. For me, I lost everything. I'm pig-headed maybe, but my eyes open. Maybe for you, you don't have to go through that route. Hopefully, we can seek the Lord together. But remember, tough times never last. But tough people, they do. God bless you. Bye for now.
you.